very simple. If you are a beginner, you may make one of these 5 strumming mistakes. Now, if you guys are familiar with this channel, you know that I often play fingerpicking. I love playing fingerpicking, but I also love playing with a pick, and I love playing strumming. I think that strumming is a fundamental technique of playing guitar. It's one of those campfire techniques that you can't miss if you want to have a great night out with your friends. And for this reason, I also talk about strumming in my R&B and Neo-Soul course. Link to it in the description below. Plus, you've also asked me to make more beginner lessons, so here we are. So in my experience, when I hear some people saying that they don't particularly enjoy playing with the pick or they don't particularly enjoy the strumming, the real reason is because they make one of these 5 mistakes or even more than one. So watch this lesson till the end and you'll play more accurate strumming patterns, you play faster if you wish so, you'll be more comfortable and you'll overall enjoy more when you play strumming techniques. Now, do you play strumming like this? Now, I hope you don't, because if you do, you shouldn't. But these 5 are all mistakes that I've seen in my students playing, so I didn't come up with them, but I've experienced them myself firsthand. So that being said, let's get started with the mistake number 1, which is playing with your elbow or making your movement from your forearm, making your forearm moving like this and playing in this very rigid way, which we definitely don't like. Now, how should you play instead? You should be using your wrist. You should create this rotation with the wrist up and down, which immediately sounds better, doesn't make you feel tired. You can control dynamics and accents, things that you can't really do if you play this way. And yes, I know that there are plenty of videos on the internet, even big channels telling you to use your elbow, your forearm. Don't follow them. So it's all about the wrist movement, you know, doing this type of movement, being very relaxed and loose with your wrist. Because if you play with your forearm, with your movement coming from your elbow, you can't be accurate. It doesn't work if you have to play faster. You can only do so if you move your wrist. But in order to create this motion coming from your wrist, you need to create room for the wrist motion. So how do you do this? You simply don't have to be too close to the strings like this, okay, that there is no space to move at all. What you want to do instead is go slightly further away from the strings, create room here between the wrist and your hand in general and the body of the guitar, so that you can rotate with your wrist and you're free to do it. Nice and loose and relaxed, okay? It's this type of movement coming from the wrist without moving too much your forearm, and definitely doesn't come from the elbow. So to recap, make sure that you have this distance from the strings and that you move your wrist, unless you are obviously playing palm muting. In that case, you have to be really close to the strings and obviously close to the bridge of the guitar. So before we continue with the other mistakes that you may make when strumming, I want to introduce you my R&B and Neo-Soul guitar course, which is available on Skillshare and on Udemy. So 2 different platforms where you can find it. And we're gonna cover everything you need to play R&B and Neo-Soul on acoustic guitar, like a bunch of techniques, including strumming, of course, but also arpeggios, finger picking, all 7th chords and embellishments you may need. All this in over 40 lessons and over 4 hours of content, explaining every single chord progression and covering the music theory that you really need to play this genre. So with a link in the description below, if you want to join the course on Skillshare, you will get 1 month free of the entire platform, so you can binge around my course and any other course for 1 month for absolute free. Or if you want to buy my course altogether on Udemy, I will provide you with a 60% off discount at the link in the description below. So make sure to check it out. It obviously supports this channel. And now let's get back to our lesson. Now, mistake number 2 is stopping your right hand movement. That means essentially only moving when you're supposed to play something to make a sound, when in fact you have to move the whole time. as you can see, when I don't hit the strings, I don't stop the movement. This is key to really stay in time. If you don't do this, I promise you won't be in time. You may feel like you are close to staying in time, but you are not really in time. So when you learn strumming, it's all about the subdivision between 8th notes and 16th notes. We are leaving alone triplets and other subdivisions because this is more of a beginner's video. And if you play in 8th notes, it simply means that you divide the beat in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 2 8th notes, 1 is a downstroke and 1 is an upstroke. If you are in 16th notes, you divide the same beat in 4 movements, down, up, which we count 1 ienda, 2 ienda, 3 ienda, 4 ienda. And again, it simply means that you keep moving your right hand the whole time. Whether you play all of the 8th notes or all of the 16th notes or not, it doesn't change anything. So if you play all of the 16th notes, you think of this kind of stuff. But if you then don't play them all, you still move the right hand the same way. But sometimes you won't hit the strings. So this also means that it's very easy to figure out which stroke directions you are supposed to play. Whether you are listening to a song and you want to figure the strumming out, or whether you know the strumming pattern and you want to understand whether you have to play a downstroke or an upstroke or a set of downstrokes, etc. So the way is, keep moving your right hand the whole time, and when you hear the sound, you hit that sound. But when you don't, you keep moving it anyway, so inevitably you know whether you're supposed to play a downstroke or an upstroke when you hear the sound, because you've never stopped your right hand motion. So if I have to play and I keep doing this the whole time, I know that what I played was down, up, down, up, down, down, up, because I simply never stop and I just assign the stroke directions that happen to be in that 16th note or 8th note, however you want to count it, when you hear the sound. Now, the mistake number 3 has to do with how you hold your pick. Okay, so generally speaking, you should be holding your pick with 2 fingers only, the thumb and the index. There's no middle finger involved, okay? It's up to you whether you want to close the other fingers or keep them open like this. It works either ways, in my opinion. You don't want to hold it too tight, because otherwise it's gonna sound this way and you want to be smooth like this. So start by holding it tight and then maybe start relaxing and going a little bit softer until you have a control of the pick, that it doesn't slip, but at the same time you hear a nice and smooth sound on the strings, which again allows you to create your dynamics when you play. You should also roughly have this type of angle. So it shouldn't be this type of thing, but it should be this, and when you go up, this way. Okay? And you shouldn't roll between the strings. You should make a faster movement that it sounds like one sound and not ba, 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 okay, which is not what we want. Also because in this way, the pick doesn't get stuck in between the strings. It doesn't sound like a cheese grater. You don't want this, you want this type of sound. Now, mistake number 4, don't play too many strings. You don't want to play all of the strings every single time. You want to create dynamics and go. You want to think like the drums, like kick, snare, you know, bass, low end and higher end, which is where you will play most of the time. So most of the time you will strum 2, 3, 4 strings max, you know, to get the high end of the guitar. And don't roll in between the strings like we said, unless you have to, because the technique, the song requires you to do so. This is rolling, but the rest of it is not. So in that case, you want to do it because it's part of what you want to play, but overall, this should be the regular sound that you play. You want to be punchy and tight. This is what allows you to play fast. Or even if you play funky. Punchy, tight. And I'll close this point by saying something that I often repeat, which is the guitar, in the way I see it, is really a percussive instrument which also plays notes and chords. I know that this is an exaggeration, but it really makes the point of being punchy and tight and percussive and really having the notes and the chords that you play almost like an accessory, because the real thing is the rhythm that you want to give, particularly if you play strumming. Now number 5, which is the mistake that I see more often, which is you don't tap your foot while you play. And if you watch any guitarist that you like and you check them out live, they will be tapping the foot the whole time. So the reason is because that really helps you stay in time. And again, it's a way to control the subdivision, 8th notes, 16th notes. So if it's in 8th notes, like we said, it's 1 and. So you should have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 with the foot really doing this. If it's 16th notes, you should have 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a, with your foot doing 1E and a 2E and a 3 and a 4E and a, and in this way it will make you feel immediately so much more in time, more in control of what's going on, with the timing awareness that you need, the confidence that you need when you play these rhythms. So a good way to improve on this is start by singing or humming, so no playing of the rhythm you want to play, da, 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 and then start clapping your hands, da, 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 da. Then you try to replace your hands with your foot while you actually strum. Maybe noodling your head as well, and practicing slow. If you practice slow, you will eventually make it and you will feel so much more in time. If you are not able to do this, even when you feel like you can play that rhythm, you're not really fully in time. Plus, when you feel ready for it, start by counting out loud while you play and tap your foot. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1. While you practice, this will make you sound so much more in time. Right, so hopefully this lesson was helpful, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.